Yes, ma'am, we are on live.
All right, that's great. Maybe we can just ask for a confirmation in the chat because I'm still seeing people posting our glasses and waiting emojis. If you can hear us, if you can see us, please drop a +1 in the chat if you can hear us and see us. Those who are watching on YouTube right now.
Yes, ma'am, we are on live.
Yes. I just wanted to get a sound check.
Maybe we can just ask for a
All right, sorry, I should put the audio down on my computer. All right, awesome. I think we are visible. I guess there's going to be a bit of a lag, which there typically is in a YouTube live stream, but it looks like we're good to go. So, all right, good evening and welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. So this is, so I'm Neel and we also have Arjun from CodeChef/Unacademy. And we're very happy to be hosting you here today. Thanks very much for joining. And yeah, I think we have some questions that we have received from the form that was circulated offline. And we have several of those, which I'm not sure if it will be possible for us to address them one by one, but we'll try to group them into some sort of broad themes and hopefully we'll have everybody covered. So we'll begin by addressing those the best we can. And if you have any other questions that you probably didn't fill out in the form, then please feel free to post them in the live chat. Yeah. Okay, so I think the first question that was quite common was with regards to prerequisites. And if you see the first video of week 1, this is addressed to some extent. But we do expect a working knowledge with some programming language. So if this is your first experience in also coding, then you might find it a bit challenging to keep up with learning a language for the first time as well as learning these concepts. So definitely recommend doing a programming language, intro programming language course separately before tackling this one. We also assume that you've seen some data structures and algorithms. So in terms of data structures, things like, say, arrays, linked lists, queues, and stacks, and trees and graphs. And in terms of algorithms, sorting and searching and BFS, DFS, things like shortest paths, minimum spanning trees, flows, greedy, DP. If you have seen all of these, which is typical to a first undergraduate course in data structures and algorithms, then you're definitely good to go. It's okay if you've not necessarily implemented all of these algorithms. So usually in a data structures course, you will end up implementing the data structures that you learn. In algorithms, it varies. So in your college or in your learning experience, you may have learned about, say, Prim's algorithm or Kruskal's algorithm or Dijkstra's algorithm or whatever algorithm, and you may not have ever implemented it. That is probably still okay. So we will go through the implementations of these basic algorithms, and then we will see how to apply them. But we will not be talking about why these algorithms work. We will not be talking about proofs of correctness. We will talk about why the way that we are applying it is correct for the problem that we are discussing, but we will really not be going over these fundamental algorithms correctness once again, because that's a whole course on its own right. So if we try to do that, we would not really be able to fit everything. And that applies to you also. So if you're trying to learn that for the first time alongside what we are trying to do here, then you should essentially think of this as 2 courses going in parallel. So if you have the bandwidth to be doing that, then it's certainly possible to do this in parallel, but then you shouldn't, you should budget your time for it accordingly. So that's what I would like to say about prerequisites. Arjun, do you want to add anything to this?
Not really. I think that pretty much covers everything.
All right, great, thanks. So now the second common question that I think was asked was with regards to outcomes in terms of will this course help us with our GATE preparation, or will it help us land a job in XYZ company, or I am at rating X on website Y at the end of this course, how much can I expect my rating to go up, and things like that. So to be honest, my experience with programming company interviews is relatively limited. I do believe that what you learn in this course in terms of just developing problem solving skills it cannot hurt. I think it will only help you when you are in an interview setting. And if if it's an IT company and the interview is in and around topics related to algorithms, data structures, this should only give you the kind of practice that is useful. But is it absolutely necessary? I think a lot of people ask if competitive coding is necessary to ace interviews. And I think I certainly know people who have nothing to do with, like, they're not competitive programmers at all, and who, of course, have fantastic jobs in IT companies and related companies and so on. So I don't really see this as a prerequisite. And I'm not even sure if this is enough necessarily. You, of course, have to do some preparation specific to the job profile that you are applying for, that you're interested in. So I would say this is neither here nor there. I mean, this is, wouldn't say that it's absolutely essential. I wouldn't say that this is all you need. But will it help? Generally speaking, I think yes. But I certainly, this is not cracking the coding interview. That's not this course. So I think it's hopefully useful to get that out of the way. Again, with respect to, I think with respect to how much you might, hope to improve your ratings in specific contest platforms. I don't know, Arjun, do you want to take that? I mean, you work with these so much more. So
sure, yeah. So just reiterating what Neeldhara said, I think the course as titled is competitive programming, right? It's not cracking the interview exactly. So I think I just want to reiterate that competitive programming is a field of its own. The fact that it's correlated to interviews just happens to be a fact. That's not the whole aim of the field of competitive programming. And the course is meant to be an intro and a segue into competitive programming and not towards interviews. It'll certainly help you in some way, but that definitely isn't the whole objective of the course. And as far as your ratings on different platforms, that I'm sure will have a pretty direct correlation with your performance in the course, because the course is built around problems from various platforms and from the field of computer programming. So I think if you solve all the problems, and if you try out all the assignment problems and go out of the way and look up more problems on the topics that we cover, I mean, say if you're a 3-star coder, I would say you would you have a decent chance of getting into a 4-star coder in a couple of months. I think that's a very, very reasonable aim to have. If you're at 4 becoming 5, I think that's also a very fairly good aim to have. Similarly, on Codeforces, say going up one level in say 3 to 4 months, I think it's a very reasonable goal to have, and I think the course will help you in that. Definitely, just doing the course alone is not going to ensure that will happen. You should also practice on your own. Give more contests, upsolve problems, not just solve the problems we give, but also solve more problems which will help you in your journey. But definitely the course will be a stepping stone in that direction.
Right.
Over to you.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks, Arjun. So I'm just trying to look at, I think there was one specific question about, I think somebody who says that he's working in machine learning related fields, and will this course be beneficial to understand papers with code? And again, this course doesn't specifically touch upon machine learning related topics, but again, if you're just looking for a way to have more excuses to practice coding and algorithms, then this course will serve that purpose. But in terms of the domain, it's generally more data structures and algorithms focused. So and also within data structures and algorithms also, because this is a course targeted at beginners, we are going to mostly focus on usually the default settings. So for example, we will not get into things like interactive judges or, problems that have approximate solutions or, solutions that are expected to work only some of the times. So for instance, Google Code Jam sometimes does have, I think one of their problems essentially asked you to build a classifier. So you could say that that has that sort of a learning theme, but we won't really be getting into any exotic topics in this course. We're going to keep it fairly close to the fundamentals. So in that sense, I would say this is not directly related to machine learning or AI specifically, but if you're looking for a way to just brush up your algorithms or, do more coding as a part of your daily routine, then this course may give you sort of the discipline and the impetus to do that. So hopefully that addresses that specific question. So we've talked about prerequisites, we've talked about outcomes. Let's now talk about the programming languages. I think a lot of folks want to know what's the best language to code in. And I think the most popular question seems to be between Python and C++. And again, I think, we have talked about this quite a bit in the introductory video for week 1, where essentially the short answer is that to get started and at the level at which this course is pitched, whatever language you know right now. So we've already said that as a prerequisite, you should have some familiarity with some language. And typically whatever language you know should be probably the best language to start with. So the familiarity that you have with a language will be an advantage that is going to outweigh any advantages that you get in terms of speed ups and running time and so on at the level at which we are working right now. So of course, there may be some advanced scenarios where you have to really dig into language specific optimizations, but we will never really encounter these scenarios in the assignments or the problems that we are solving in this course. Arjun, do you want to say more about why C++ is so popular in the CP circuits and people should worry about that at all?
Sure. If you're a beginner, I would repeat what Neeldhara said and said, do not worry about which language you're using, because most of the easier problems which are meant towards beginners are such that they'll be fairly language agnostic, as in it shouldn't matter which language you do it in. So whichever language you're comfortable in, I would strongly recommend that you just stick to it, at least until you get a decent idea of what computer programming is, so that you get the whole excitement of competition. I think is something you can experience with any language. But once you get into slightly advanced levels of, say, 4-star, 5-star, then a language becomes somewhat, in many problems, it becomes a critical factor as well. C++, as she was saying, is typically faster. Many platforms do give you additional time if you use Java or Python, because it is known that those languages are slower, but still they are not enough, and it can lead to issues. The simple answer is that C++ has been the standard in the computer programming world. So almost any problem, the setter and the tester will have solutions in C++. So you can be almost be assured of the fact that a C++ solution will pass. But if you're using a very uncommon language, which is not in the top 3, but in some like platform support like 50 languages, no one can test in all the languages. So most people try to test in the top couple of languages. Beyond that, there's definitely no guarantee that every problem you'll be able to get it accepted. But Java, at least, I think is fairly fine. There are issues sometimes, but at least in like intermediate level, I don't think you need to worry about. Python, on the other hand, does have its limitations when you come to around higher intermediate level. But again, if you're a beginner, I definitely would not recommend shifting languages. Stick to what you're comfortable with and go ahead. The other aspect which you will have to consider is libraries, which come inbuilt with languages. So C++ has a library called STL. Similarly, there is something in Java and Python as well. So there are these pros and cons. So something like big integer is not there in C++, whereas it's very easy in other languages. Whereas some other concepts are easier in C++ than in other languages. Again, repeating, if you're in a beginner level, it does not matter, because these concepts won't be part of your problems. At some level, it's good to know multiple languages, because if a problem requires a slightly non-trivial concept, you can change the language and use that. But it's frankly not that much of an issue. And again, because C++ tends to be the mainstream default language, almost all problems will have solutions which are easy to code in C++. So yeah, that I think is the answer.
All right, thanks, Arjun. So hopefully, I think we've had a bunch of questions about like C++ and so on. Okay, there's somebody with a username CPP who has whose comment is Python for TLE. I don't think it's that bad, honestly. In fact, I think in the lectures, you'll often see me coding in Python. Sometimes, a good algorithm really makes up for, a lot of the slowness of the language. I think if you have asymptotically fast enough approach, typically it shouldn't matter what language you're coding in. And if you look at, like, I think websites that record the stats for, various contest platforms, you'll see that in principle, people have gone quite the distance with even exotic languages, like forget Python, but some really weird and non-mainstream languages. So in that sense, theoretically, language shouldn't be that much of a barrier, probably even at the advanced levels. But yeah, I think once you have crossed a certain stage, I think it probably just makes sense for convenience to switch out to C++ whenever you're ready. But definitely don't worry about burdening yourself with that, at this stage. All right, so before we move on to tackling more questions, just to get some interactivity in the chat, can you give us a +1 if you have seen any of the lectures from week 1 so far? And I'll separately ask if you have actually coded one of the problems. So +1 in the chat if you have seen a lecture already. Week 1 officially starts next week, but the lectures went live yesterday, and I think some of you have already started asking questions on Discord and so on. So just curious about how many of you have already gotten started. All right, so we're seeing a few +1s, which is super encouraging. Thanks so much. Now, I think Sai Tarun also had a question earlier asking if everything will be live on YouTube. And in fact, no, the answer to that is that all of the course material, the official course material is pre-recorded, and it's available from the Swayam platform. It's also available here on YouTube, and it's also available on Item Pool. And you can, Item Pool is this platform that adds a layer of questions on top of the videos. So I definitely strongly encourage you to solve or watch the videos. All right, so now, so hopefully you can find all the videos on this platform called Item Pool, apart from on Swayam. And the reason we request you to do them on Item Pool is because the videos will automatically pause whenever we are asking a question in the video, and you'll have a chance to actually answer that question before you move on. These questions are not graded, but I think it makes for a much nicer experience when you're watching the video. And we also, the last question asks you for your feedback on, how well you were able to follow the video. So that feedback is very useful for us as well. So this is just a request to, access the pre-recorded material on Item Pool. As far as the live sessions are concerned, we will have typically most NPTEL courses have 1 or 2 live sessions during their run. We can actually do these more frequently depending on depending on the interest. So if we receive requests from you all to have a live session to clarify some doubts from that week's material or whatever from the assignments of the previous week, we will be happy to organize these live sessions on a more regular basis. So the schedule of the live sessions is not completely fixed right now. It will be dynamic and evolving as we go along. But other than that, the course follows a fixed schedule. This also, I think, addresses one of the questions that came in earlier, which is what's the schedule for the remaining weeks. So if you want to know about the topics, you can find the topics from the course homepage. But if you want to just know about the frequency, then videos will be launched on a weekly basis, typically a couple of days ahead of the starting of the week. So just in case you're running ahead of time and you're excited to get to the next week's material, you can do that. And the assignments typically will again have you'll have one assignment per week, and the deadlines will be announced along with the assignments. The assignments come in two parts. The first part is multiple choice or short answer questions. So these will all have automatically graded multiple choice questions or questions with short numeric answers. And typically they will not require any actual programming. They will require you to think about the problem from the perspective of somebody who may be wanting to write a program at the end of it to solve the general problem, but you don't actually have to write any code. Most of the time, either pen and paper or even a simple calculator at best should be enough to tackle the MCQs. Apart from these, we will have one or more programming assignments where you will require, to actually write some code to be able to complete those assignments. So the assignments are in two parts. They also have a weekly schedule. And I think the assignments, the deadline is such that I think you have a little more than a week to actually get them done. This is again a good time for me to request all of you to please not discuss actual solutions to the assignments in the Discord forum, because then it's just it just becomes a formality if if all these solutions are kind of discussed at that level. But if you want some clarifications, or if you have some question about some phrasing that you don't understand or whatever, then those questions are welcome. That's what the forum is for. So we'll be happy to kind of clarify the specifics. Okay, so just going back to the response sheet to see if there's anything that we have missed. When should we start competitive programming? I think now is a good time for wherever you are, I guess, assuming you want to. So everyone will probably have a different reason for why they want to do it. But once you've made up your mind, it's never too late. It's never too early. I think you can just get started. There was a question about staying motivated, and I promised Arjun that I'll request him to take on that one. So you want to talk about it a bit?
Okay, I'm going to assume the question is asking about how to get past frustration in computer programming and stick with it, and not in general a philosophical question of how to be motivated. To be very frank, I'm not a great person to answer this, because I almost never participate in contests or something. I've participated in ICPC and so on, but I always have a teammate who used to code for us, and I'm someone who is lazy to code in some sense. But at least I still am very much in the domain of computer programming, and what keeps me motivated, I think, is just the thrill of solving a new problem. I think there's nothing which beats that feeling. Of course, learning new concepts is always great, but the thrill of solving a new problem, I think, trumps learning new knowledge. I think it's to do with fast speed and so on and so forth. So I would highly recommend people to just try and solve as many problems as possible. Keep pushing your limit. Don't stay in your comfort zone. If you're able to solve the first two problems of a Div 2 contest, don't just do that. If you're not able to solve the third problem in a contest, go after the contest, spend an hour or two thinking about the third problem, figuring out how it is that you can maybe look at the prerequisites. After the contest, you can look at the prerequisites. If you don't know the prerequisites, great, go and read the topic. But if you know the prerequisites, then it's a matter of applying what you already know. And that, I think, is the best part of any computer programming problem, which is the problem solving part, right? It's not just knowledge. You already have the knowledge, but how do you manipulate it, and how do you massage it to solve this particular with observations and so on. So I think just spending a decent chunk of time trying to solve a problem, not just code. I mean thinking of the problem, right? I think that gives a great boost to your enthusiasm if you can crack a nice problem. a problem which has been challenging to you, and at the end of an hour, you've understood it, you've digested the problem, and you've gotten a solution. I think that's one of the best feelings you can get. And I think that is something which will serve to motivate you to stick to it, stick through the frustrating times of having all your buggy codes and not understanding some long problem statement and so on and so forth. I think that helps you in the journey.
All right. I think I just have a follow-up question on that. How much should people, be watchful of things like ratings? I think when you're practicing regularly on a particular platform, I think ratings tend to go up and down. And if they start going up, I guess the way ratings work is that it gets harder and harder to maintain them as well, right? So you have to at least be at the same level. I mean, perform at the same level as you were. Otherwise, they also go down. So I guess that's also another common source of frustration when people are kind of maybe potentially over obsessed with looking at their stats, right? So do you have any tips on that?
Definitely. I mean, I can just tell you that even though I've been in the field for, I don't know, 11, 12 years now, I'm like a 3-star coder on CodeChef or something. I mean, so yeah, I think that's the simplest answer I can give. I really do not care about my ratings. I really don't care what it is. I mean, it's just the joy of solving problems and learning new things. I mean, sure, if you have that competitive spirit, then getting your ratings increased is also a source of joy for you. Amazing, that's great. But then just having that as your only motivation, I think is detrimental to your journey. I would definitely not encourage doing that. Make sure you enjoy the process and not just what it does to your rating or what job prospects you have. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's yeah. I mean, I think that should be super reassuring to a lot of people, hopefully. And I think I generally completely agree. I mean, of course, it's possible that you're in a situation where maybe you need you're aspiring for a specific rating, maybe because of a specific goal, or maybe that's the way your mind works, is that's your best motivator. In that case, by all means. But I think it's just, I think the nature of ratings is that they do tend to fluctuate, and at least zooming in on, so if you're going to focus on ratings at all, I think at least a practical thing to do would be to really look at it over longer periods of time, as opposed to, how much did it change in after one contest or two contests or things like that. So at least zoom out a bit and look at how they changed over a period of, say, 6 months or 1 year. Give yourself that kind of time, because it does take that kind of time for your sort of performance graph to evolve. And also just be, so this stuff is, I mean, I'd say this stuff is not easy. So have patience with yourself, and and try to focus on the process and the joy of the process, as opposed to focusing completely on the outcomes. So I think right. So let's move on here. So I'm curious about how many of you actually submitted any code based on the lectures that you saw in the first week. Like, did you try submitting reverse sort on CodeJam, or numbers game, or any of the other problems? +1 in the chat if you actually coded something from week 1. So links to item pool, as well as the Discord forum, are in the chat. You may have to scroll a bit to find them, but yeah, you can find them somewhere in the chat, I think. Yeah, most of these materials should be accessible from the course website, like once you enroll as well. Just trying to go back up to see if we missed any questions. Do we have linked list and queues in our course? I mean, I don't remember if there's a problem that specifically uses these topics, but yes, when you're implementing things like, say, BFS, you will end up having to use queues. For the most part, we'll, whenever possible, we'll just try to use built-in data structures, so you don't have to bother with implementing, them from scratch, but you should at least know how they work so you know what to do with them. So that for sure. I think somebody has asked if we can relay the prerequisites per week on a weekly basis. So sure, that's a good suggestion. We'll do that. So we definitely plan to have pointers during the week, but I think we can even do it ahead of time. So for example, next week we'll be searching and sorting. So we'll point you to a few resources where you can pick up a little bit of searching and sorting. So I think you have some fans in the chat, Arjun. So, okay. So let's see, how would you? Fourth year, will it be the right time to start CP? Again, I think as I said earlier, there's, it's never too early or never too late to start something like this. I mean, you can, again, in terms of personal experience, I will say that throughout school and college, I was actually honestly not very fond of contests in general, and programming and math contests in particular. And I frankly thought they were a bit weird. So I kind of just stayed away from them. It was a bit of a thing that I just didn't want to do or be involved in. So even when I was doing my PhD, and that's probably when I met Arjun maybe for the first time. And then had a couple of other friends there who kind of showed me this world of both math and CS contests. And then I realized what I was kind of missing out on just in terms of quality content, right? And so it just is something that evolved to be a good hobby. I think the other reason I had a mental block about this was because I also felt that I'm not a good problem solver. Like, I was never quick on my feet. I would never, have flashes of insight. And, I just need to break my head for much longer than most of my friends. So all of that, I think, was just contributed to not wanting to take a look at it. But I think here I am years later, and this is something that I think is a relatively recent hobby that I've picked up. So I don't think it's, I don't think it's ever too late or too early to get into something like this. Of course, there are other things which have sort of a correlation with timing and age and things like that, but I don't think this is one of them. So again, if you have something very specific, like placement season is around the corner and I need to become an ACE competitive programmer in like 3 weeks, then I'm not really, I'm not really sure if I have, anything to say to that. I think then you just need more structured and strategic preparation. But in general, like, especially if you're doing CP out of a sense of curiosity and fun, then, I think it shouldn't matter where you are in your life journey. You should just be able to get started and hopefully enjoy it. Now, how would we go about solving a problem which has been scratching your head for hours and you still have no idea where to start? So that sounds familiar to me, but then I don't know. Arjun, do you want to take this?
That is definitely an interesting question. I mean, okay, so if you're stuck, one thing you can do is just try pattern matching. I mean, if you've exhausted all your techniques of how you might want to do it, no observation is popping out. One of the at least for me, sorry, okay, yeah. I think this is something which many people go as one of their first resorts, but for me, it's one of my last resorts, which is just trying out it on some very small input, like trying out for a bunch of small inputs and see if you can find some observation from that. That definitely helps. Maybe write a brute force code, run it on, you can generate your own input, run it on some things and do it. But all this is definitely a time intensive process. If you're beginning, like say you're still like 3-4 star, it could very well be that there is some concept which you do not have enough knowledge in, and hence you're not able to solve the problem. In which case, banging your head against the wall does not make sense. You mean you can't expect yourself to come up with the extras algo or something of that kind, right? That's going to be a very unreasonable thing to expect of yourself. So I would definitely suggest that try for maybe 1 hour. If you find a really interesting problem and you want to challenge yourself, try for a decent amount of time. But if you can't get past it, if it looks totally alien to you even after some time, peek at the editorials, or better yet, if you have some peer who has already solved the problem or has seen the solution, ask them what the prerequisites are, or look at the tags in the problem. Most platforms have tags, right? So look at the tags and see if those topics are things which you've already learned. If not, don't waste any more of your time, right? Your time is much better spent learning the topics and then coming to the problem, right? So I think that's sometimes tags are also not enough, in which case this is where a peer group helps a lot. I would just ask my friend, do you think I'm capable of solving this? Do you think I have the knowledge to solve this? And if that person knows me well enough, they'll tell, oh no, this involves this one technique which I don't think you know. So maybe just go read that and then come back. So then I'll read it and then come and try and solve this problem. So it always helps if you have. So this is why like a study group or something of that kind, where you have chemistry between a bunch of your friends and all of you attempt problems together and things of that sort. It's invaluable. But even otherwise, I think you can just ask on some forum, or I think there are lots of Discord groups now which do things like this. So just ask them for a hint, or just ask them which topics are needed. And yeah, so I mean, do not sink in time on a problem and then after like 2 hours understand that it needs a concept which you just don't know. That I think is just a colossal waste of your time. But if you find out that it's topics which you know and it's an ad hoc problem, again, if you're still in like 3-star, 4-star, I would not recommend spending more than 1.5 hours on a problem. Like spend that much time, sure, but beyond that, you might just get disheartened. So read the editorial. Like many editorials also have hints. So maybe just look at the first hint that gives you at least a direction of how to attack the problem. Then go back, try for some half an hour more, and then come and look at maybe the next step in the thing. So try to, I just try to scroll down and see only the first line of the solution, and then a bit more things. Not all editorials are structured that way. But if they are, then that's great. I think that's something you can do. Again, peer group helps a lot here. You can ask someone to give you a hint so as to not spoil the entire problem, but just one small direction, and then try and so on.
Okay, so that's super helpful. Thanks, Arjun. So let's see. There are any questions that we missed from the chat? So somebody has asked if we need to do parameterized algorithms along with this, and the answer to that is easy, and it's no. That course has nothing to do with this one. So if you're doing that course, then you will probably know why you're doing it. So so the only common thing to both courses is that they are natural courses to do once you've finished a first algorithms course, but I think there the focus is quite a bit different. So we need to see the videos on item pool and submit the assignments in Swayam. That's correct. Watch the videos on item pool, and you can answer the in-video questions on item pool, and they will not be graded. And the graded assignments, you can find them on Swayam. How important is the knowledge of DSA? Okay, I guess you're asking how important is it to know DSA for this course? And as we said earlier, DSA is a prerequisite for this course. So you do need to have your DSA background sorted out before coming into this course. To some extent, you can do certain things in parallel. As I said, if you want to, if you know these algorithms, like algorithms for shortest paths and minimum spanning trees and flows and things like that, but you've never implemented them, then it should still be able to, you should still be able to follow this course and learn the implementations along the way. But if you have never seen the algorithms in the first place, then as I said, you can probably still do it if you push yourself, but it's going to be really double the work, to be honest. So it's like doing 2 courses simultaneously. So there are algorithms courses on NPTEL. You could enroll in them as well. And maybe it's, unless you have the time, it may be a better idea to pick this course up in the January edition and just do the algorithms course this semester. If that is to say, if you've not done any algorithms course before. So All right, so I have problems in solving the ad hoc problems. Okay, even after doing DSA, ad hoc problems frustrate me. I mean, that's the thing about ad hoc problems, though, I guess, is the very nature of them. You don't need DSA, and it's not clear if DSA will help you also. So, I mean, you may just need a little bit of lateral thinking or general problem solving sort of aptitude to be able to tackle them. So I think the only way that I know to do ad hoc problems well is to just practice tons and tons of them so that you begin to sort of subconsciously develop your own sort of rhythm or sense of identifying patterns. And even then, sometimes, you can sometimes get stuck, and sometimes you might find that the solution is like easy or silly in retrospect, and it's just possible. Like some of this is very psychological also, because maybe you estimate the problem difficulty to be at a certain level. I think you end up throwing more of your resources at it that is really necessary, and the solution turns out to be something that's simpler. So sometimes you may have this anticlimax sort of experience, but it's okay. I think that's kind of the whole point of all this, is to just keep practicing as much as you can. So other than DS and algo, do we need topics like game theory? And somebody earlier also asked if we need things like, I don't know, like combinatorics and discrete math and things like that. I think all of that is generally helpful. If you've done a course in discrete math, that will certainly help you with things like ad hoc problems, etc. But it's not an absolutely essential prerequisite. So for instance, even the first week has a problem involving a game, but you don't actually need like game theory proper to be able to solve it or to be able to understand the solution. You just need some, really elementary high school math, I think, to be able to do the manipulations that's required for that problem. And we're really thinking from first principles. So I think it should be generally okay. Okay. All right, how many hours per week are required? This is a tough one to answer because it'll really depend on where you are on your journey and what's your background. On an average, I mean, I can say that the videos are 2.5 hours on average. If you watch them at 1.5x speed, I'm not sure what that works out to, but probably like a couple of hours. I mean, I would expect that the videos take a bit longer than their actual runtime, because we do expect you to pause and think about the questions that we're asking in the video. So these videos are, really designed to be interactive, even though they're not live. So if in the video there is a point where we're saying pause and think about this, then definitely do pause and think about it. I think that'll give you a deeper understanding of what is going on. So that way you might need, like, so if it's 2.5 hours of video, I mean, it's completely all right if you needed 5 hours to go through them. I mean, if you were just honest about, going through the exercises in the video as you went through them, I think, it's possible that it takes you that kind of time. And the assignments, I think, are typically designed to keep you engaged for, like, I don't know, 2 or 3 hours, I guess. So overall, between 7 to 10 hours, I mean, is probably a fair commitment of time. I mean, if you want to do the optional practice problems and, do other contest problems, and if you want to build that to the course, then that's going to be a lot more time. But in general, just for the minimum materials in the course, I think the assignments, the MCQs and the programming assignments included, probably between 3 to 4 hours, and the videos will probably take you another 3 to 4 hours to completely finish. Okay. All right, so I hope that helps. Did you have a different estimate, Arjun, or is this reasonable?
No, I think that's pretty reasonable. Yeah.
Okay. Please do polls in Discord asking how many students went to the live session. We're not tracking attendance here, but okay. Do we need mathematical algorithms too for being better at CP? Can Java fulfill all the requirements? Not sure what we mean by mathematical algorithms here, but if you meant algorithms on topics like number theory and so on, again, I think, in competitive programming, often we definitely see problems from specific math flavored themes like number theory, game theory, and things like that. And sometimes domain specific knowledge is important for tackling a problem. For instance, when you have string problems or problems from computational geometry or whatever else, you do need some standard techniques from that topic. That is going to be beyond the scope of this course. So for this course, I think those that kind of background is not really relevant. But okay, can Java fulfill all requirements is, I think, a separate question. And yeah, I think in general, a lot of competitive programmers do use Java, and I think probably even at the highest levels. So I don't see Java falling short in any way. And in fact, some things are probably easier in Java even. So that should be fine. Will computational geometry be covered? No. I think there are probably a couple of assignment problems that have a geometry flavor, but that's really elementary geometry. But we won't be covering computational geometry as like a topic on its own right. Maybe in a follow-up course if there is ever one, but no, not in this one. Where can we find the solutions after the due date? Somewhere on Swam, I don't really know, but we have uploaded the solutions as well, and they should be visible in a visible way after the deadline is gone. But if you have any trouble with finding them, then let us know in Discord and we'll help you locate it. All right, so Arjun, do you want to take this one from the Google Sheets? I think the one that you highlighted about test case writing, pseudocode versus otherwise.
Oh, no, that was actually from chat.
Okay.
Yeah, so is test case writing, is it necessary to code? No. Oh, wait. I assume this was talking about exams, like in test is writing.
Yeah, I think there was an ambiguous way to parse the first part of that like phrase, so I'm not sure. But okay, so I think giving pseudocode being sufficient, if we were to just tackle that part of the question, I can't imagine any situation where you have to give a pseudocode, right? I mean, the non-programming assignments are either multiple choice or numeric, so you'll never need to give a pseudocode there. And for the programming assignments, you do have to write code in a programming language, right? So I think pseudocode will not be sufficient there, correct?
Yeah.
So that's.
So maybe the question was asking whether in the exam, the physical exam, maybe there is some subjective questions, but I don't think there are any such.
Right. So in the exams, there are no subjective questions. There are, again, the final exam will follow the format of the assignments, and there will be no programming questions in the exams at all. So as long as you're following along with the assignments, you should be comfortably prepared for the exams. But do the programming assignments, not only for the grade requirements, but also because that's really the heart of this business and help you prepare better for, when you're in an actual contest and so on. So, okay. Will this course include tricks to reduce the runtime? I guess, yes. I mean, it depends. So we'll often build up from a solution that's somewhat a naive approach to the problem, and we'll try to keep improving it. So in that sense, yes. But I don't know if there's like a specific bag of tricks for reducing runtime. Yeah, I mean, we will be talking about optimizations. That's true, if that's what you mean. Yeah, I think so. If I understand the spirit of the question correctly, I think the answer is yes. Yeah.
But I think the focus is more towards asymptotic optimizations rather than constant optimizations. I mean, I don't think we're going to look at the difference between CNN and scanf, or that's probably not going to be the objective.
I think that's a good distinction to make. So by and large, I mean, maybe there will be like occasional exception to this, and maybe some really weird problem where shaving off a constant factor or doing fast I/O is important. But by and large, the focus is on improving the asymptotic worst case running time, and we won't be looking at compiler optimizations or like the lower level optimizations of that sort. I had a problem doing assignment 0. Should I still continue the course, or should I work more on the prerequisites? I would suggest there's no harm in sticking around for a bit and seeing if you feel this course is for you. So the week 1 materials are up. The week 1 assignment is also live. So see if you are able to give that a shot. It may not be fully indicative because, as we were just discussing, sometimes ad hoc problems can be trickier than traditional algorithms problems. But I think they were not designed to be super tricky. So so if you're having serious trouble with week 0 and week 1, then I think it may be better to come back to this course later. I also don't know what level of trouble you had with week 0. So if you're the sort of person who is unhappy about like a 8 or 9 on a 10, and then I think it's not worth worrying about. But if most of it looked unfamiliar, then maybe again, it's better to come back to this at a later point. Nishant, we will be sharing specific prerequisites per week, but based on a suggestion in the chat earlier, I think we will even try to share them in advance so that you can prepare in advance. Ankit, let's create a WhatsApp group. The problem with WhatsApp groups is that, well, I think the size of the groups are limited, and I think this is a comparatively larger course. And we already have a Discord forum. We also have the Google groups, the mailing list. So I think the more we diversify, the harder it may be actually to keep in touch. So there will be updates over email. There will be updates will be mirrored on the Discord announcements channel. We have these live sessions. So hopefully this is enough. Of course, if you want to form a study group with some other peers from the course, like you talk to them on Discord and you want to form a smaller WhatsApp group among yourselves, you're welcome to do that. Once again, please respect the honor code of the course and try to not exchange solutions and things like that. Use it for learning. And as long as you do it that way, I think, of course, it's a good idea and you should go ahead and do it. But officially, we will try to restrict this to the Discord group and the mailing lists. How do you get materials? By enrolling for the course on the SWAYAM platform. If you have enrolled already, I think you should be able to get it from SWAYAM. Rakshit, I think there was a link to Discord. Maybe somebody can mirror it, or I'll copy paste it in just a moment. I think we have probably all right. Is there any extended course for this, like advanced math concepts in CP? I mean, I'm not sure if there are any on the NPTEL platform, but there are definitely lots of courses out there. In fact, if you check out the Learn Competitive Programming with CodeChef channel, I think you'll find a lot of excellent material there. In fact, last year, I think they organized a camp. Was it still called the IPC camp?
IPC, yeah.
Right. So the IPC camp, you can find playlists in 3 categories: beginner, intermediate, advanced, and it's very well organized. It's all on their YouTube channel. So please check that out for more advanced topics. All of it is freely available. So I think that's a great place to start. So the Google Groups info, I think, should be in your email once you enroll in this course. In SWAYAM, there's no link to access materials for week 1. Well, the links should be there. So maybe you can just try to contact us offline and we'll try to sort this out. But the links for week 1, the materials for week 1 should be available. Okay. All right. So I don't see any new questions. I think we seem to have covered most of them. Yeah, Arjun, do you spot anything that maybe I missed?
I think it's mostly the same.
For any logistical questions, so I see a question in the response sheet which says address change error whenever I fill out the exam form. I think the best people to contact would be the support staff at SWAYAM because we are not really very well equipped to address such issues. So if you're having any issues with the platform, like you're not able to log in, or once you log in, you don't see anything and things like that, then please contact the, the help for the platform. And I know that they'll get back to you pretty quickly. Yeah. Any additional books recommended? I think the references are there on the course website, but let me pretty quickly repeat them. So there is a CP book. You can just pretty much search for it. And I think the older edition is available online. They have lots of good materials. They even have a GitHub repository with a lot of examples. There's a book that's referred to in the fourth lecture of the first week called Looking for a Challenge. So if you're looking for slightly more advanced material like somebody was, that's a great book with a lot of examples, many of which are at a more advanced level. And I think for basic algorithms, DSA material, I think we recommend generally Kleinberg, Dadosh, and Dasgupta, Vazirani. So I think these books should be there on the course website. I mean, I can rattle off a few more names, but let me just make sure that you have the links to the references over at Discord. Yeah, so you can find them. You can find them offline. Right. So I think Bhupati is asking, yeah, I saw your question on Discord as well. Yeah, so the recommended questions, the practice problems for every week. So we will post them on the course website. So you probably saw a link which started with craft.do. And that's where we'll keep running lecture notes and like all the course materials in one place. So the practice questions, the extra optional material for week 1 is not live right now, but it'll be posted tonight and I'll make an announcement once it's available. Yeah. So once again, if you have, so I think somebody has also asked if there's a procedure to unenroll from the course. And again, I'm not sure if there's a way of doing that. I mean, maybe if you have already paid for the exam and you're looking for a refund, or if you just want to unenroll from the platform and you've not registered for the exam, then I think no action is really needed. You can just let the course lapse and not engage with it. And, I think that should be all. You'll probably continue to get the assignments, but you can like announcements for things, you can probably filter them out. Not sure if there's a specific process for unenrolling, but for any of the any questions related to logistics of that sort, please do write to the support staff and you will be sorted out soon. Amandeep, the Discord link was posted a few minutes ago somewhere. Let me see if I can. I'm not sure if there's a way to pin the link, but if there is, then we could do that. Abhishek, procedure to enroll. There is a procedure to enroll from the SWAYAM website. So I'll just drop a link to the course on the SWAYAM platform, and you can enroll from there. Oh, right. Okay. Bharti is here. Thanks, Bharti. Yeah. So that's right. So there's no explicit unenrollment that's required. You could just unsubscribe from the Google group so you stop receiving the announcements. Correct. So.
Bharati, if possible, can you just add the SWAYAM link on the description? I think a lot of people have been asking for it.
Yeah, I'm just trying to pull it up if I can. And yeah, I think I just found it. All right, so Abhishek, I think that's the link to the course, and that's where you can enroll in it from. Okay, there are many topics that are part of CP but are not a part of this course, like MOS, ALGO. Okay, you probably know what that one is, square root decomposition and so on. That is true. CP is a very big field and we only have 12 weeks, so we had to make some very difficult choices. Depending on if there is enough interest, we may have a sequel, but I'm not promising anything right now. But yeah, we necessarily had to leave out some really fun topics, and I think some of our favorites are also missing from the course. But what is there is very enjoyable. I assure you that you will have fun going through what is in here. So let's focus on what we have and not what we don't have, I think. But yeah, there's as I said, I mean, if you want some supplementary material, I think the Code Chef YouTube channel is a great place to start. And there's tons of material and will keep you busy for a very long time. If you're interested in more, I think, content that's more real time, I guess. There are a few streamers who are very popular in the CP community, I guess. So you could follow some of them on Twitch and YouTube and so on. Typically, they will stream, either live stream their process of solving a contest, or typically there's an after contest stream that usually happens after most Codeforces contests these days, maybe even CodeChef, I'm not sure, where people just, I think on CodeChef, what started happening is that the video editorials come out almost immediately after the contest. And you can, and on Codeforces, I think some people are now pretty regular with live streaming. Sorry, I seem to have a technical issue with my video link.
Yeah, I was just going to say.
Yeah, so sorry about that. I'll see if I can fix it. But in the meantime, is the course certificate helpful for product-based companies? Again, the honest answer is I'm not sure. So I think the course material should help you in general, but like, is this something that product-based companies are specifically looking out for? I am not completely sure. So Arjun, you want to elaborate?
I really have no idea. To be frank, I don't even know if, I mean, a lot of product companies have competitive programming based interviews. But again, as Neeldhara was saying, I don't think this is the only thing. I mean, you should do well in their interviews. I don't think they care so much about what you've done in the past, about your ratings and so on. If at all, it's just a very preliminary filter that they have, they use it for. So I don't know, but it can't hurt, I guess. Sorry, I don't have a much more helpful answer to that.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. Also, being that this is the first run of the course, I think it would probably not be very honest of us to say that it's useful or not useful for something. This course doesn't really have any established history right now. And even companies don't know what it means for somebody to have done well in this particular course, right? So, so I think the right reason to be in this course is either because you want to really explore the world of CP, you have enjoyed your algorithms, you want to have some good reasons to be implementing them, getting some practice with DSA fundamentals. And you know, I think it's okay to want to do it, like be motivated by you know, maybe some placements that you might be preparing for, some internships or whatever. But don't let this be the only thing in your toolkit if you have something high stakes that you're preparing for, right? So so just make sure that you have a well-rounded plan for whatever your specific career goals are. But yeah, I think in general this makes you sharper and hopefully a little bit quicker on your feet, a little bit more comfortable and confident about problem solving and programming in general. And I think those are all useful, useful skills to have. So I hope that that helps. Yeah. Yeah, so I mean, for all product companies that have a CP-based screening round, I think this will definitely help with that in general. But as I said, we are not, the material is not targeted to anything specific like that. Like you can find other resources, the books that are literally titled Cracking the Coding Interview, which have materials that will probably be a lot more specialized and might help you more. But at the same time, as I said, I think this is generally helpful. So you're definitely welcome to do this as a part of your overall preparation, just not exclusively. Yeah, sorry, I'm having some technical issues with my camera here. Let me see if I can fix it or maybe join the meeting from another device. Sorry about that.
Pratyush, answering your question, should I proceed with this course, even if I just know the basics of DSA and just like to solve coding problems in general? I think you should, definitely. If you enjoy solving problems, you could even take this as an opportunity to learn DSA topics, which you might not have known earlier. But I think enjoying problem solving is definitely a good motivation to do the course, definitely. You should not starting today. I mean, this is just a slightly a more informal live session. This is not a lecture, right? So the lectures start from 26th. Yeah, Neeldhara ma'am's video has some issue. She's trying to fix that. Hopefully it should be done in a few minutes.
Yeah, this is a different angle, but hopefully at least it works.
Yeah, it works.
All right, good. Yep, sorry about that. Okay. Yes, so the course is indeed starting next week. We just wanted to give everybody a heads up and, just get to know you all and get a sense of what the most common questions were before taking up this course. Again, just to maybe give everybody a quick summary of like the most popular questions that we have had so far. In terms of prerequisites, we definitely recommend being comfortable with some programming language. It doesn't matter which one. So if it's Python, that's fine. The level at which we are going to be tackling this, Python is going to be perfectly suitable for all the problems that we anticipate to be doing. But you should be reasonably comfortable with some programming language. And some data structures and algorithms. I think the topics have been listed a few times by now, both in this session as well as over the Discord chat. So you can find lecture-specific prerequisites. Our plan was to give them to you as we go along, but I think based on the suggestions here, we will share with you the prerequisites for the upcoming weeks, sort of 1 week in advance, so that you can start preparing yourself and take a look. The other, I think, common question was about the outcomes. And I think, as Arjun was saying, you can certainly expect to level up as you go through the course if you manage to keep up with everything and you're disciplined about how you interact with the materials. You can certainly expect to level up. And I think by how much will kind of depend a little bit on where you are right now. So I think, but usually just going, one step up, like one notch up the ratings ladder, I think should be reasonable for the duration of this course. But having said that, I think we were also talking about, like when we were talking about motivation and such, to be just a little bit wary of focusing completely on ratings and kind of, being over judgmental of yourself, using that as a sort of yardstick, right? So especially if you're somebody who checks their ratings every minute, I think just my informal advice would be to chill a little bit and look at it over a longer range and have some patience with yourself. So this is especially a shout out to those who are starting out. I think this will help you stay in the game for the longer term. I think, the other common question was about the choice of programming language. And I think we have said that a few times by now. So for now, we recommend sticking to the language that you're most comfortable with. But if you're at a more advanced stage, then C++ seems to be the de facto standard here. So if that's something you can afford to do, then think about it, but it's not a requirement. And at least at this stage, we would recommend sticking to whatever you're most comfortable with. All right, Abhishek's asking for the course link. Again, I think I'll see if I can drop that in the chat. 1 second. So, coding platform points will differentiate us from others in the interview. Again, to be honest, I think that depends on the employer and depends on the specifics. If that's something that is important to them, then maybe yes. But it again is not something that honestly I know enough about to be able to give you a concrete answer there. Sorry. So all right. How much important is competitive programming for software engineering? I wouldn't say they're directly related. I mean, I don't think either is a prerequisite for the other one. In fact, again, I can say this informally. I don't know if I should say it on the record, but I think a lot of software engineers like ranting about how competitive programmers write really unmaintainable code because they're just, interested in getting something that works and getting it out of the door. So sometimes actually this is probably a downside worth mentioning. I think in CP, since we are so focused on just solving the problem in the shortest amount of time possible, we tend to actually follow some, some not so good coding practices, I guess. So for instance, we probably end up using short and non-descriptive variable names just as a really small example of like things that you can do to annoy your manager or maintainer. So I think that's something to watch out for. I mean, if you are somebody who's been in CP for a long time and you're switching out to a professional development group, then try to be sensitive to the differences in those scenarios. And I think in general, again, practicing CP just makes you a better problem solver and, necessarily brings you closer to a lot of different ideas and algorithms, right? As a part of your CP journey, you'll just end up becoming more knowledgeable about lots of different algorithms and data structures. And that's going to help you as a professional in more or less any area that's broadly CS. Or even math for that matter, right? But for anything beyond that very general statement, I think you will need practice and preparation that's specific to that domain. And as I said, in some cases in software engineering, you can actually imagine that CP takes you 2 steps back because you subconsciously learn these not so good practices and you have to remember to unlearn them and respect the best practices in your specific situations. So that's something to watch out for. Okay, Harsh, what prior knowledge? I think you've addressed this a few times by now. I think, it's a good idea to know algorithms before you come in here. It's possible to do them in parallel, but you should budget the time that you need to do 2 courses. So, and also if you do them in parallel, I mean, you might find that this course is more challenging than at least we intended it to be. So just keep that in mind. So as long as you have the temperament to handle that, I think it's okay. But in general, I think it's okay to also wait it out for the January edition of this course. That's assuming there will be a January edition, but yeah, there very likely will be. There very likely will be a future edition of this course, so you can take it up then. It's just that I realized that I was implicitly making a commitment to a January edition, so I thought I will just hold my tongue on that. But anyway, all right, so. Okay, so I think we are kind of a little over an hour here, and it looks like we have tackled most of the questions. All right, this is going to be super cheesy, but give us a +1 in the chat if you're looking forward to this course and if you plan to stick around. But and with that said, I think we should probably start winding this down. Arjun, do you have any closing comments?
Not really. I think it's great. Looking forward to it.
All right, I think we have at least 1 + 1 in terms of. All right. Okay, cool. No, yeah, serious note though, thanks everybody for staying back and for joining us on a Saturday evening. Really appreciate it. Okay, I guess you have one last question. I think you're referring to me. How long did it take me to learn DSA and CP? It's hard. I mean, sort of implicitly assuming that I've already learned DSA and CP, so I think very much still learning. But yeah, just to make that a little more concrete, I guess it's something that I felt like I was starting to get the hang of when I started my PhD. So maybe 4 or 5 years, I guess, something like this. CP is something that I'm definitely it's very much work in progress. So I wouldn't say. And I think it's fair to say that it's the nature of CP is such that it's a work in progress for everyone because it's just something that you do, right? I don't think you ever finish learning something like that. So cool. All right. On that unintended beep note, I think everybody please keep practicing, keep having fun, and thank you so much for joining. Appreciate it. And good night for now. See you soon.
Good night. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.